Do you have trouble dealing with obstacles and setbacks? If so, then this is the video for you. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Trisha Gardner, and I'm a mindset mentor who's written several books on mindset strategies for poker players. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about how you can manage the emotional roller coaster that comes with the frustration of hitting obstacles and setbacks. So if that sounds interesting to you, then let's get started. Now, obviously, most people do not like obstacles, and that makes sense. After all, when you've got a goal that you're trying to accomplish, the last thing you want or need is something standing in your way. Obstacles seem to make us stand still, and they keep us from getting what we want. They cause us to lose whatever momentum we built up, and in the worst case scenario, they become the roadblocks standing in the way of allowing us to get what we want. With all this in mind, it's no wonder that obstacles seem so daunting. You might as well pack it up and go home, right? Wrong. What if I told you that obstacles don't need to be as bad as what you think? What if the one thing you're facing right now might hold the solution to the very problem you're trying to solve? Consider this for a moment. What if what you're looking at is not so much an obstacle as an opportunity? That is, it's your emotions holding you back, making you think an obstacle is the stopping point, instead of actually being a new beginning. For this reason, I think it's time to rethink obstacles. And I'm going to be going over 10 simple steps that will help you keep your emotions in check as you reach out and embrace obstacles. It's time to see the opportunities you never imagined were there and to travel new roads you've never been down before. So if that sounds exciting to you, just stay tuned. The first step that I want to recommend to you whenever you hit an obstacle is to take a time out. When you stop, you give yourself time to consider the options without all the emotions flaring up. You guard yourself against acting impulsively in a way you might come to regret later on. The best way to do this is to take a deep breath or two. Then you want to label the emotions you're feeling. Doing so is going to help them to calm or to pass by. Knowing whether you're sad or angry or frustrated will help you find that calm place faster, as you would address each emotion differently. For example, ask yourself what you're angry at if you're indeed angry. If you're sad, accept the sorrow as being a natural part of the disappointment of meeting something that is keeping you from reaching your goal. As challenging as it might be, don't try to rush through the feeling or push it down. The best way to use this setback as fodder for out-of-the-box thinking is to embrace the emotion no matter what it is. Own it and feel it in your body. Once you feel it settled, you're ready to move on. This process may take an hour, a day, or a week, depending on how major the project and how substantial the complication. Next thing I recommend is that you accept where you are. Realize that obstacles happen to everybody. The more you fight them, the worse they're going to seem. It can be like standing in quicksand. The sooner you come to accept the situation, the better it's going to go for you. It's the struggle that pulls you down. So take a minute to tell yourself that this is a natural and healthy part of any process. Remember, the emotions you're feeling are legitimate and real. It's where you are right now at this moment. But let me assure you, bad feelings will not last forever. The next step that I advise you to go through is to consider your options. After acknowledging the emotions of the moment, you can choose to let them go. It's time to switch over to the more logical side of the brain, where you store wisdom and experiences. That's where you're able to process what just happened and consider your options. I'd also advise you to take a step back and look at the obstacle from an outside point of view. This means just look at it as though you were a stranger standing on the outside of your life looking in. What would they see right now? Doing this is going to allow you to question your assumptions, and that can help you to find a unique solution to whatever the problem might be. This goes along with step number 4, which is to get creative. Here's where a little flexibility is going to go a long way. I want you to start examining your alternatives. Be as creative as possible and don't discount anything offhand for being too silly. Sometimes it's those silly ideas that are going to get you thinking along a different path entirely. Sure, it's normal to feel some disappointment at this point. Chances are that you had your path all planned out. But when you consider all the new possibilities, it's easy to get excited about trying something new. Use this energy to fuel you towards your next step. I'd be remiss if I didn't remind you to stop and think about what the lesson could be. Embracing the lesson, which is the idea that every obstacle holds something from which you can learn. Ask yourself, what have you gained in the face of the roadblock? How are you looking at the world differently? What can you share with those around you about your experience? When you can not only ask these questions, but also answer them, you're discovering the meaning in the encounter. You haven't wasted your experience, and even roadblocks can hold a purpose. Okay, step number 6, we want to break it down. Frequently, our problem with obstacles starts with trying to take on too much at once. In moving forward, re-examine the goal you are trying to accomplish. How can you break down your goal into smaller steps? By focusing on these more modest goals, you'll find it easier to move ahead. Also, you won't be quite so overwhelmed by the big picture. Another important aspect of dealing with roadblocks and obstacles and hassles is to admit that everyone makes mistakes sometimes. By permitting yourself to fail, you'll accept that obstacles sometimes occur due to human error. In some ways, these feel like the worst sorts of obstacles because it's easy to get caught up in a negative thinking spiral when this happens. You might even start questioning your abilities and wind up wanting to give up on your goal altogether. Here's where it becomes crucial to keep things in perspective. By acknowledging you are only human after all, you'll be able to admit when you're wrong and be able to move on. What's more, you'll be better able to accept when you make mistakes again in the future because, after all, you will. We all do. Sometimes we have to reconsider our goals. In the end, it might be the obstacle was connected to what you were trying to accomplish in the first place. It might be the goal either wasn't well thought out or it isn't what you needed to do in the first place. It might be time to reconsider the original premise all over again. Is this obstacle trying to tell you something? Sometimes the obstacle comes because you've made a shift in what you were trying to do. Have you somehow changed your goal midstream? It might be you need to rethink your plan of attack entirely. When this happens, your obstacle has instead become an opportunity to move in a direction that suits your purposes better. Now, this might seem a little bit odd, but the 9th step that I want you to take is I want you to remember to celebrate. When you celebrate your accomplishments, you embrace the journey you've been on, barriers and all. Even if you've stalled out completely, you can celebrate the progress you've made and the work you've put into the project. These are all worth getting excited about, and the emotions here are worth embracing. Then, when the party's over, ask yourself where you want to go from here. Make choosing a new goal part of the celebration. That's also something to get excited about. Now, here's a bonus tip. You should never have to do hard things alone. When you're facing an obstacle, it's okay to ask for help. Mentors and support systems are integral to the process of working your way through difficulties. The benefit of a mentor is clear. They've very likely been in this position before and have the wisdom and insight to lead you through to the next stage of your development. Don't discount professional help where and when it's needed. If you find you're having trouble separating your emotions from the process, you might need a little bit of help in working things through. There's nothing wrong with seeking advice from a mindset coach, a counselor, or even a medical professional if you find that you're overwhelmed and unable to proceed. In the end, by embracing the obstacles you meet in trying to attain your goals, you're likewise embracing a new way of thinking. You're adjusting your mindset to one of success instead of failure. You're accepting that there are different ways to do things and that things standing in your way are more often new opportunities than a true stopping point. You're looking at life in a way which allows you to go places you never thought possible. The key here is in control. Your emotions shouldn't be what's holding you back. Of course, it's okay to feel what you do when you meet with an obstacle. The key is not to stay stuck. When it's time to move forward, you just have to keep on going and keep trying. So there you have it. There's 10 tips that you can use whenever you face an obstacle. Now you might notice that I didn't talk about a specific obstacle or roadblock, and that's because you can use the tips for any roadblock, whether it be in poker, at the poker table, or in your everyday life. If you'd like to learn more, there's 2 things that I have that I believe can help you over at peakpokermindset.com. The first is I have a free online mini course called Rev Up Your Poker Success, and that is dedicated to helping you develop goals through a step-by-step process. And since setting goals and sometimes revising goals is an important part of dealing with obstacles, I think that will really help you. I also have a course called Escape from the Downswing Trap, and that one has a lot of instruction on dealing with the negative emotions that come with being in a downswing. You talk about the ultimate obstacle. Being in a downswing certainly qualifies as one of those. If you'd like to get that course, there's a 50% coupon code that you can use, which I'll leave in the description box below. So until next time, I hope you keep working on that mindset. Don't forget to like and subscribe.